Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Rat God, a 5-issue miniseries published by Dark Horse Comics in 2015. And this is the brainchild of Richard Corben, the legendary, amazing underground cartoonist. Well, he definitely did more than just undergrounds, but that's where he came to fame. And just very sorely missed. I think a few years after this series came out, he died. And so this is very late era Corben, very different than his 70s work. And I've said it before many times because we've looked at his undergrounds, a lot of his underground comics. And, you know, Corben's known for being this great artist, which he is. He's one of the best. But yet, I always liked his writing. Whenever he wrote these short underground comics for himself, they're just really good scripts. He just really knows his way around a comic story. On top of that, he's such a great storyteller that the combination, his stories are always just great, totally entertaining, sometimes actually kind of profound and stuff. So even though he loved drawing barbarians with huge dicks swinging around and giant titted ladies, he's a pretty thoughtful writer. So here's the first issue. Really nice painted cover here. We can see Corben hasn't lost much in the chops department, even though he's pretty old at this point. Really creepy cover. Little title page. So the colors, Beth Corben Reed assists Richard Corben. I think that may be his daughter. And I don't know who's doing what, but the colors are great. So kudos to both of them. You know, you expect that from a Corben comic. On top of being one of the best artists of all time, cartoonists, he's probably one of the best colorists. He's got such a good color sense, Corben. Excuse me. So the Rat God with Mag the Hag. Kind of unfortunate in these later stories that Dark Horse published to the teens. He had this horror host called Mag the Hag. One of the worst horror hosts ever. Doesn't even look scary. Just looks like a very homely old man, even though it's an old woman. But it's hard to tell. Very, very manly looking features. And just like a horror host, they don't start the story off, but Mag the Hag will pop up throughout the comic and kind of comment on what's going on. Very obtrusive, very unnecessary. I really dislike this Mag the Hag conceit he does in a lot of his later comics. This would work so much better without it. It doesn't pop up much, so it's not that bad. But it's just totally dumb. It takes you out of the story. So we start off sometime in America's past. We see this brother and sister, Native Americans. They're fleeing from, apparently 2 tribes are after them. They're fleeing for their life. I don't know why, but these people want to kill them. I love the design here. Look at that. And look at these colors. This is just outstanding stuff. Look at the illustration here on the tree bark. You know, man. Corben definitely in his later years wasn't as detailed. But, I mean, he was so hyper detailed as a young man. This is still more detailed than most cartoonists ever do. I love this little panel of this owl eating a mouse. So they're fleeing these people, running through nature. All these shots of nature are just beautiful. The trees, that aforementioned owl. They see this horrific, almost like a totem. These 2 dead bodies posted up as a warning, I guess. So the sister's name is Keto. And let me get the brother's name. The brother's name is Achak. And basically their luck runs out. And the bad guys have found him. Achak gets wounded tells Quito to run to the river and he'll meet her there. But basically, he's just gonna fight these guys. He probably knows he's not gonna make it. I love the design. Look at this great design on the bad guys, whatever this is. Some kind of outfit. And God, we get typical Corben fight choreography, which is so savage. He's just such a good artist that, like, he knows body language so well and anatomy that, like, when the opening salvo here is Achek throws this boulder right at this guy's head, and you can feel the weight of that rock crushing his skull. By the way he's just standing, it's also violent when Corben does a fight scene. Bones are getting broken, and people are getting concussions and shit. All these designs are so interesting on these warriors. So Achek's doing really good. Achek is doing really good, but then this archer kills him. And then he sets his sights on Quito. He sees her running towards the river. He's going to chase her. And all of a sudden he trips. And here's Mag the Hag, the horror host. So not only is Mag the Hag the horror host, every now and then she can intervene. So she trips up this villain to slow him down so Quito can get away. See what I'm talking about by Mag the Hag? Just looks like Lawrence Tierney or something. Some really ugly old man. Not very it's no crypt keeper, you know. So Quito makes it to the river, or is about to, and then all of a sudden, something compels her to get up, and all of a sudden she's on this road in like the 30s. We see a steel bridge, and a car is coming her way, and the guy sees her for a split second, and then she disappears. So he gets out of his car and is all like, what the hell? And this guy comes out of nowhere. And his name's Chuck. And he says, hey, can I get a ride? But Clark asks him, he says, did you just see a naked Indian woman in the middle of the road? He's like, no. But could you give me a lift? And Clark has no idea. So this is the part of the story, this introductory passage. I have no idea how it connects to the rest of the story. There is going to be a brother-sister in this comic. One is named Quito. The sister's named Quito, and the brother's name is Chuck. But are they supposed to be reincarnations of these brother and sister from the beginning? I don't know. I don't know if it matters. It is a beautiful sequence, but I really still don't get how it connects to this 1930s milieu. So as they're driving along, Chuck introduces himself. He recognizes Clark. He says, yeah, I've seen you in Arkham. You're Quito's friend. That's my sister. And they have to stop at a gas station. And there's this old Native American man there. And Clark is kind of an arrogant turd. He calls him Chief. He says, hey, Chief. Move your ass. Get the lead out. He's kind of a dick. I like that face there. So when they get back in the car, Chuck says, why were you so rude to that old man? And Clark gets defensive. He says, there's nothing wrong with calling a guy Chief. He says, that's an honor among the lower Indian races, isn't it? So we see he's like this typical 1930s man, kind of racist, kind of arrogant. He even brags about his pure Aryan stock. Eventually, Chuck just says, just let me out here. And he says, fine. Clark starts to drive away, but then he pulls back. And he says, you jerk claiming to be Quito's brother. Teach you not to sully a white girl's name. And he starts a fight with him. I like this how we just see thwack, punch, wunk. And the car drives off. And then we find out it's actually Chuck beat the shit out of Clark and stole his car. So Clark starts walking. Basically, he's heading towards Lame Dog, which is a small town. A very, very remote town. And it's starting to snow. So he lets his mind wander to the past, and back when he was at Muscatonic University doing some post-grad work, which is in the town of Arkham, and he's thinking about how he met Keto for the first time. And instantly he was transfixed by her. Something about her was very different. And they become friends, kind of leaning towards something more than friendship in a very short time. Now back to the present. Clark is getting worried because it's like it's really getting cold out here, and I don't know where the hell I am. And then all of a sudden a panther attacks him. Look at this great Corben panther. This is a great action sequence of just, it's kind of scary because Corben has such a savage intensity to his art that like you really feel like, oh my God, this panther's, that would be scary as hell to be attacked by this panther. So Clark is trying to fight him off. Obviously, he's going to lose. And it looks like he's done for. And then all of a sudden, a shot rings out. And it's these hunters who are far away. They didn't see Clark. They just saw this big panther. And they head off. They don't hear Clark's cries for help. And so even though they saved his life with the panther, he's probably going to die anyway from the elements. And we see Mag the Hag closes out the comic. Let's get to number 2. Oh, that's a wicked cover. I love this character design. We'll see this guy a little later. I even like the logo of this comic. Just an all-around good-looking comic. Look how cartoony these snow-covered trees are. So things are not looking good for Clark Elwood. He's might not make it. He's trudging through the snow. He's got hypothermia. But he's letting his mind wander back to the past once again. He remembers when Keto told him about her hometown of Lame Dog. Apparently it was a boom town at one time in the 1830s or something, but it was quickly tapped out of gold, and it became just this semi-ghost town, this really run-down, crappy little place. Lots of poverty. But there was one guy there, Zedin Peck, who kind of ingratiated himself with the Native Americans there. He joined the tribe in their peculiar religious rites and ceremonies. Ultimately, he integrated with them and became their leader. And it's said that he actually got everyone to burn down the European churches in town and basically put keep out signs on all the city limits signs. I mean, so basically it's like this secluded town. And Keto tells Clark that she and her brother barely escaped. So apparently if you live there, it's hard to even get out of that town. But they made it, and she never wants to go back. She really likes her new life in Arkham. There's Mag the Hag. And as you can see, too, I mean, Corben's still got his great cartooniness, even though he's not as illustrative. He always had that great cartooniness. So that's what he's relying on more in his old age. But some of the panels is just like really crude characters where Corben's really using a visual shorthand, which he never would have done before. It still looks good, though. Corben's still got, he's just a master. He knows where to place things in a panel, whatever. He's got the eye of an artist. So, yeah, it's no biggie that this guy's crudely drawn. You barely even notice it. She's got such an interesting face, Keto. God, the noses in this comic, if you guys noticed, everyone's got a huge honker. Almost inhuman noses. So we're still in the flashback period. So one day, Clark is gonna surprise Keto, pick her up at work, take her out to lunch or something, and he finds out that she's a nude model for the art classes. And of course, this is the 30s, so this is just not good. And he storms out, She doesn't even put her clothes on. She just runs because she's so in love with Clark by this point. And Clark basically says, I can't be seen with someone like you low-class whore. Basically something to that effect. Because, back in the 30s, people were dumb. Not like now. We're very intelligent. And I guess the next day he realized his mistake. And he went to Keto's apartment to apologize, to beg for her forgiveness. And he gets mugged by these 3 kind of feral-looking dudes. See, look at that weird face there. See just how simplistic this is, some of this art here. But it's still like Corben's great style, but really stripped down. And so now we're back to the present, and it looks like Clark wakes up in a cabin, and it's Chuck. Chuck found him in the woods, saved his life, and of course all Clark can think of is, you stole my car. He says, your car's right outside. I recommend you get back to Arkham as soon as you can. I only did this because, my sister likes you. I did it for her. I think you're a dick, basically. So I guess he falls back asleep. Chuck leaves. And he gets in his car and says, I'm not turning back. So he's going to continue on to Lame Dog. I love these just panels of, the travel there. Corben's always been such a good storyteller, panel-to-panel action. It's almost incredibly readable. I guess in the old days it probably helped because his art was so lush, you'd almost want to linger too long on each panel, lose the flow of the story. So he made sure that the storytelling was incredibly fluid. I guess now that's not the issue. It still looks so good to me, though. I mean, it's almost a different artist, even though at its core, obviously, that's a Corben face. But just the fact that, just the so little detail. He never would have done this in the 70s. He never would have drawn panels like this. He would have added like 8,000 more lines, half a bottle of ink. So he gets the Lame Dog. It seems to be abandoned. And then finally, this guy comes out. And everyone he meets basically says, you should be out of here by sundown. And don't go to the graveyard, whatever you do. And everyone has this weird rat-like appearance. This is where it's very H.P. Lovecrafty. I can't remember which story it is, but H.P. Lovecraft has that one story where everyone's like half fish. And everyone vaguely looks like a fish. And this outsider is, like, hey, what's up with these people? So he gets a room. He rents a room at this boarding house. There's this young, I think she's like a teenager. She's like the daughter of the guy who owns the house. And once again, she says, don't go near the graveyard. You should leave before dark. And of course, all the townsfolk are very weird. Getting weirder all the time. And then he meets this guy. And this guy seems like a refined gentleman. And this is Damon Peck. I think he's the grandson of that guy we saw earlier. The one who kind of shut off the town and burned down the churches. He's also a famous artist. Keto mentioned him before. So he has a big mansion in Lame Dog. He's like the one prominent member of the town. Of course, he warns him to leave too and to stay away from the graveyard. So then the 3 muggers from Arkham show up. The guys who mugged him for his hat. They're still wearing his hat. So Clark tries to grab it. And this time Clark does a little better for himself. Gets a few punches in. And he actually has the guys kind of cowed. And then this little kid comes up from behind and bashes him in the head. And the 3 guys stomp him. Once again, they stomp the shit out of him. Someone stops the lead thug and says, "That's enough, Mogar. He may be useful later." And now we have Mag the Hag again, looking like Carl Malden. And we see that Panther is still alive. And it looks like it's heading towards Lone Wolf. I'm sorry, Lame Dog. Because it's got the Clark scent. He wants to finish the job. Number 3. See, now this is what I'm talking about. See, Corben can still do this. Look at this amazing painterly shit. The way he's drawn these stones, these steps. I mean, this is like a classic eerie or creepy cover from the 60s or 70s that Corben would have done. But, so he can still do it. But I think he's probably just, he's not going to put that in every panel. In the 70s, he would. Every panel would be this lush and painted. So it's kind of a shame we still don't have that Richard Corben anymore. Well, now we have no Richard Corben, unfortunately. But even then, this is still so much better than so many other artists. I'd rather look at this than hundreds of other guys. It's weird. This page is more lush. Maybe this issue he was just got a vitamin E shot or something. So the girl from the inn comes to visit Clark, and she's kind of making a pass at him. Well, she definitely is. She's naked. And once again, she says, "Don't go near the graveyard." So he says, "Fuck this. I'm going to the graveyard if everyone's telling me not to." So he kind of creeps out of his apartment, and he sees these people in robes, all converging on the graveyard. That's a nice page. So they're doing some kind of ceremony. It looks like the high priest has a big rat mask on. And there's the guy from last issue's cover. Love that design. So apparently they have like 3 sacrifices. They take the white hoods off these 3 youths. That statue of this like kind of rat god, it tilts back and there's a big hole. And they basically push the kids into the hole. And you hear the sound of rending and chewing. So something down there is eating these sacrifices. And then the third one, it turns out to be Keto. She's back in Lame Dog. So Clark runs through the crowd to save her. He pushes some of the hooded guys into the hole. And then someone grabs Keto, puts a hood on her, and hustles her out of there. And leaving Clark behind to fight these guys. And Clark takes the rat mask off the high priest. And he says, "Hey, you were back in Arkham." And Clark is like, "I'm putting an end to your religion right now." But of course, that's not going to happen. There's like 50 of them. So the high priest and Clark, I think it's the high priest. Oh, maybe it's one of the normal hooded guys. They fall into the hole. And he sees the monster, the real monster, not just the statue. It's eating one of the hooded guys. Oh, look at that nightmare image. And it looks like he passes out. I love the colors on this page. And just the panels of it. Look at the folds on here. That's just so incredible. This is, I'm pretty sure, some computer manipulation going on. He's having this weird dream. It's kind of almost psychedelic. And this old woman appears. She directs his attention to this blue fungus growing. A rat comes up, eats the fungus, and then goes up to the skeleton, this amazingly well-drawn skeleton, and kind of vomits up the fungus into the skeleton's mouth. And it reanimates the skeleton. But look at this, guys. This almost looks like I can't tell what medium that is. It almost looks like photographic when you look close at it. Like a real slimy effect. Pretty weird. And then it's keto. Turns into keto. I mean, look at her nose. That's crazy. So the dream gets more weird. Keto spits up that blue bile into his mouth. And so maybe it's not a dream, actually. It seems like a dream. Yeah, this totally does seem more painterly, this issue. So we see Clark emerge from the ground. I guess he's been down there for like a few days because he's got a beard. He doesn't even know if it was a dream or not. He can't tell. But he comes back to Lame Dog. Once again, that teenage girl's trying to throw herself at him. Her name was Garlina. And then some of the bully boys from town break into Clark's place, and Clark's waiting for him. He says, "Hello, boys. We've got some unfinished business." It's kind of interesting. All of a sudden, like, Clark is this total kick-ass dude now. He kept getting his ass beat in the first two issues, but now he's like walking tall. Another very nice cover by Corben. Beautiful stuff. So we start off where we left off. And now we see kick-ass Clark. He's like the Punisher now. He just kills these guys almost with his bare hands. Nice action sequence. So they still have his hat. And Clark is just like, "Just give me my hat and I'll let you go." He just wants that hat back. This is weird. I don't know if like Richard Corben's computer program broke down, but it looks like a quarter of his face has disappeared into this blue background. Here I kind of get it because of the perspective, but that just looks wrong. But it still looks great though. I mean, if you can ignore that, just the lushness of the art. The coloring, doing the molding. So Clark has vanquished all those guys. And that other guy's, the dandy, what's his face? The painter. He's waiting in his apartment. And all of a sudden he's got a deal for him. And Mr. Peck, his name is. And I'm sorry, the older guy is his father, not his grandfather. So he basically makes a deal and says, it's almost like he wants to get rid of his father. And he figures this is the guy to do it because he's already beaten up, 5 people. Clark turns him down. But then Peck shows her. I don't know if this is, I think this is just a representation of Keto. Or if Keto's in a trance. He says, "Look what I have Keto." And it's like, if you do this job for me, you can have her for all time. She'll be yours forever. And then he pulls out a gun and says, "Don't think about just grabbing her now. I'll blow her brains out. So as soon as you do the job, I'll give you keto. I'll give her back to you." So I guess that night there's a big party, almost like a costume ball at the mansion, at Peck's mansion. And God, this just gives Corben an excuse to just do all these amazing, beautiful costumes. Look at this, the imagination in here. So good. These are those paintings that made Peck famous and rich. And then the elder Peck, who's teaching an art class, I guess during this party, he does this little instructional tutorial. And he points out to Clark and his son. He says, "There, grab them. They're assassins in disguise." So he's onto them. He's onto his son and his machinations. So now we get the last issue here. Kind of a spoiler cover there, but look how wicked that is. Fucking Black Panther fighting this crazy rat god. Amazing. Yeah, I guess we're getting more of that painterly stuff going on. There's Mag the Hag again. So Peck the Elder has them thrown in this prison cell. And it sounds like he's going to kill him. But also within this cell is the rat god. It kills Peck the Younger. And then it looks like somehow Chuck snuck in the cell. Once again is rescuing Clark. Cuts his ropes. And while the rat god is still chowing down on Peck the Younger, they escape. It's like a very Simon Bisley type character. I mean, Simon Bisley would have stolen that from Corben, but you can see the similarities. So Chuck is basically like, "I freed you. You've got to save my sister." And then the rat god gets him. So Clark escapes. I like this little panel of him climbing up out of this vertical tunnel. And he finds Keto. He's got to fight some guys to get out of there. Oh man, beautiful colors once again. They're trying to escape a lame dog. It looks like the road has collapsed in front of them, blocking their passage, and all of a sudden the rat god comes out of the ground. Like Old Faithful. So the rat god attacks the car. And it looks like it's the end of Clark and Keto. And then all of a sudden that panther shows up. I don't know why he doesn't attack Clark, because that was the one he was trailing, but thank God he goes after this rat god. What a great primal scene. Look at this. I'd pay like $100 pay-per-view to see this fight. And then Peck the Elder shows up, shoots the panther, but it looks like the rat god's pretty injured. He shoots Clark in the head. It doesn't kill him though; it just kind of knocks him out. And Keto drives the car towards Peck the Elder, and there's a gasoline can in the back. So the Rat God and Clark the Elder and the car all go kaboom. And I always see these old-timey Native Americans, and they're watching from the woods, speaking in Native American, so I don't know what they're saying. And I don't really get the significance of that either. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the plot. So that teenage girl from the boarding house, she shows up and she's helping taking care of Clark because he's so injured. They put him in the truck. And they see this kind of like mummified old woman in the middle of the road. And Garlina, the teenage girl, she does some sign language with this old mummy. So I don't know I wonder if this old mummified woman is supposed to be the original Keto from the beginning of the issue 1. I don't know. I'm kind of confused by this whole part of the story. So it looks like Clark's going to be okay. So Clark drives them all back to Arkham. And when he goes to his college to talk to the professor, he basically shows him the ring that the old woman gave him, the mummy lady. And this is kind of a weird couple panels here. He says, it's a wedding ring from blah, 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 1800. The Elwood archives tell of an Indian woman's servant. And just from reading these few things, the professor says, it's not conclusive, Clark, but it appears that this dark-haired woman is your ancestor. Please take no offense. University rules, you know. I'll have to ask you to leave the premises. Because it's 1930, remember? So somehow this is proof that he's got a little Native American blood in him. And the professor just says, you gotta go. So he goes back to Lame Dog with Keto and Garlina. And it looks like he becomes leader of the town, according to Mag the Hag, whose nose is even huger than before. Look at that. It's like coming out in 3D, like it's going to pop my eye out. He became the mayor of Lame Dog. And it sounds like he had many children with both Keto and Garlina, since polygamy is not uncommon in Lame Dog. So kind of a happy ending, I guess. It's like H.P. Lovecraft, if H.P. Lovecraft ever had a happy ending in his stories. So there you go, guys. Rat God number 1 through 5. Some late era Corben work. Still really damn good. I got a lot of this stuff. He did so many of these for Dark Horse, even for Marvel. It was just like, it was nice in his twilight years. He just did whatever the hell he wanted to do. Wrote his own stuff. It seemed like he was just doing whatever project he felt like doing. And, retaining the copyright. So I'm glad Corben left the world the way he came in. Independent and brilliant. So hope you guys like looking at these. I sure did. And I'll hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.